Hello, this is Team 3. We are presenting our analysis about relocating manufacturing from China. This presentation will guide you through our process of problem identification and analysis, where we employed a variety of analytical tools to derive data-driven recommendations. The problem. With rising labor costs in China and escalating tensions between the US and China, a growing number of US companies are exploring the possibility of relocating their manufacturing facilities. However, the decision remains uncertain and alternatives are unclear. In response, our analysis of logistics performance index data aims to offer well-informed recommendations for these businesses.
Initial analysis. The foundation of our analysis was built upon our exploring the relationships between LPI scores and 6 key factors: customs, infrastructure, international shipments, logistics, quality and competence, tracking and tracing, and timeliness. To reveal these connections, we employed a variety of statistical models tailored to the data and the insights we hope to obtain. First, we consolidated the data for each year into a single data set. This allowed for time series modeling of all data for each country. We then created a new data set for modeling in the StatTools program. We then used StatTools to perform a series of tests and analysis. To inform our decision regarding potential alternative countries to China, we incorporated a time chart illustrating LPI scores over time for 5 countries within the same region as China. This visual aid was chosen because it tracked changes in LPI scores over time. This helped us identify potential candidates for further analysis. This is the result of the time series forecasts with additional linear regression lines. You can see here the linear regressions for both Vietnam and India are trending in a positive direction. Based on the time series chart we just viewed, the 2 countries with the most promising LPI scores are India and Vietnam. We will focus on these 2 countries for the remainder of the report. The multiple regression analysis involved the simultaneous inclusion of all 6 key factors as independent variables to assess their combined impact on LPI scores, the dependent variable. This statistical approach allowed us to assess their joint influence on logistics performance. Here is the result of the regression analysis. You can see an R-square of 1, a p-value of almost 0 for every single variable. As one might expect, the 6 independent variables account for 100% of the variability in the LPI score, with R-square equaling 1. Additionally, coefficients of each independent variable are significant, as each variable's p-value is nearly 0. However, the issue with including all 6 variables in the regression analysis yields high to very high collinearity for each variable. Taking another look at the regression result, we can see that each independent variable's collinearity was between 5 and 17. Anything over 5 is considered high. When one factor of the LPI score improves for a country, other factors are likely to be improved as well. So, we must focus on fewer factors, or just a single one, that can account for the variability in the LPI score without acting as a duplication of other factors.
On to finding our best models. Knowing that we can't proceed with a regression model including all of the variables due to collinearity, we need to find the best regression model for LPI score. So let's begin with correlation. Which variables or other scores have the strongest correlation with the total LPI score? Well, based on correlation, we can see that logistics and infrastructure have the best correlation with the total LPI score, with correlations of 0.977 and 0.97 respectively. Now, also note, there's a strong correlation between all of the variables, as we can see identified here. We could tell this from the high collinearity of our initial regression model, but this just further confirms that we must choose just one or two variables for our final regression model for determining LPI score. So, which variable is the best predictor of LPI score? Likely it's going to be logistics or infrastructure score based on those correlations. First, we tried running a regression on both logistics score and infrastructure score. The results look great. We've got a very high R-squared at 0.9721 with a very low p-value overall and a very low p-value for our constant and both of our coefficients. However, the collinearity is still too high, so we're going to have to choose just one variable. At this point, we went ahead and ran regression analysis on each of the other scores as the independent variable x in determining the total LPI score y. As expected, the variables that had the highest correlation to LPI score, as we can see at the right from our prior analysis, also had the highest R-square when run in a regression of determining the LPI score. As we predicted from the correlations determined previously, we find that logistics score and infrastructure score had the two best R-square values in determining the LPI score. So these two categories are going to be our best predictor of LPI score. Now, we've determined our best regression models for LPI score are when run against either the infrastructure score or the logistics score, but not both. The logistics score is the best predictor of LPI score, but one or few companies have very little control over the entire country's logistics score. A single company or a small group of companies could better contribute to a company's infrastructure than total logistics. Based on the prior analysis, boosting the infrastructure in a country will be the second biggest predictor of that country's LPI score. So, let's focus on boosting infrastructure in our new location. But the question is, where?
Now we move on to forecasting logistics score. So as we stated in earlier slides, we started off with countries within the same region as China. They offered lower labor costs, political stability, and proximity to major markets. As we analyzed our time series graph, we were able to narrow down India and Vietnam as the countries with the best output for LPI score. And then from our prior data analysis using our models, we determined logistics score as the best predictor for LPI score. With this, we will choose the country with the best forecasted logistics score and work on boosting the infrastructure there. That takes us to Holt's exponential smoothing forecast model, which we know has two components, both level and trend. Using this, we can predict the logistics score for a couple of years in India and Vietnam. Here we have our forecast for our logistics score in India, and one thing that we should note here is that our raw data is not from 2007 to 2012. It's actually 2007, 2010, 2012, 2014, and 2016 and 2018. The only reason they're set up this way in the bottom is because we had to select annual periods going up by one. But here we can see that the logistics score is actually predicted to decline. And now here we have our forecast for Vietnam's logistics scores. And the same situation applies here as I stated in the previous slide, except here for the upcoming years, we can see that the logistics score is actually predicted to improve.
So finally, our team's recommendation.
The LPI of a country is predominantly influenced by two primary factors, logistics and infrastructure. Among all alternative countries, the most promising alternatives are India and Vietnam. While contemplating this transition, there is an opportunity to invest in and enhance the infrastructure of the country a business expands to. Like we showed in the previous slides, Vietnam's logistics score shows positive trajectory with continued improvement in the future. So, we highly recommend enterprises currently operating production facilities in China to take proactive steps in investing and strengthening the infrastructures in Vietnam as we contemplate the relocation of production operations from China, because Vietnam's LPI is poised to become a sustainable and favorable choice for business in the years to come. Also, relocating to Vietnam is also beneficial to Vietnam, as the business not only enhances Vietnam's infrastructures by establishing a new production facility, but can also make their substantial contribution to the local infrastructures. This includes investments in residential, dining, shopping, and other amenities to support the workforce. Thank you very much for your attention during our presentation. This concludes the presentation from Team 3. I hope you have a wonderful day.